Hi everybody, Mark here again, talking from the shed of mystery, and today we're going to be looking at the handlebars. So the handlebars I took off the bike about a week or two ago. The handlebars themselves are only held on by these two bolts here. It is actually a complete bar that goes across, and these are welded brackets to hold it on. Now when you unbolt these, you'll find there'll be rubber and metal washers on there, also with the bolts of course. That's to provide some form of shock absorption, and also the rubber mounting actually helps the bolts stay on so they don't actually vibrate loose. Now the handlebars are quite a complex item. They hold not only the Speedo head, which would fit in there, but they also hold the indicators, which go on the actual mount for the clips there, and you also have obviously the various handlebar mounting brackets which have things like the high and low beam. You also got the choke and other bits and pieces on there. So what do you need to know about this? Well, firstly, it's not the easiest of things to get out. Obviously you've got to remove the headlight bowl, and behind that you'll have a series of wires. Now if you're going to remove something that's got a lot of wires attached to it, it makes sense to either label the wires if you haven't got a camera, or if you've got a camera, or if you've got a phone, takes pictures, take a few pictures as reference, so you've got something to work to when you put this back. Now obviously there's only 3 or 4 wires on that, which looks pretty easy, but when you start adding in other wires from the various different handlebar grips, you end up with about 10, 12, possibly even 15 wires, which is a simple bike, and it can start to get confusing as to what goes to what, because not all the time do you get brown wires or blue wires going to blue wires or blue connectors. They can go to different colour connectors, so that's something to bear in mind. What you'll also find out, now if you look at these two indicators, now from the front they look the same, from the side they're very different. So what's gone on here? Now this is, I think, is the original one, because the ones on the back are of this detailed shape. This one's obviously a rogue one. It looks like it's off another bike basically, because I've not seen anything that comes off of another bike that doesn't have a sort of short stub mounting on it. So this is from something else, but in essence we can probably detect from this that at some point the bike's either fallen over or has been dropped or what have you. But these are fairly simple, straightforward mountings. They've only got the one wire, so it doesn't matter which side they go on when you put them back, just as long as they're secure and they work. So we're not worried too much about those at the moment. So they come off with just the one fixing. Now probably the most important bit on the handbars is actually the throttle slider. Now this obviously goes on like that, but it doesn't just do anything on its own. Inside here there's a couple of unique there's a little groove channel, I don't suppose you can see down there, but that in essence is like a corkscrew. So as you twist the hand grip round, it pulls the cable slider up here and conversely puts it back again when you close the throttle. Now that has 2 parts to it. There's a metal part and a plastic part, which we'll go into later. So obviously you want to keep hold of those, because these bikes, like most other 40-year-old bikes, are pretty rare, and it's finding the small parts that are going to cause the problem. So if you lose that part or you damage that part, you're going to have major problems trying to find a replacement. So when you're taking these things apart, do it with care, document things as you go along, look at the stuff that you're taking off to make sure it's safe of course, and keep it somewhere safe so you don't lose it. Now obviously looking at the handlebars here, we can see there's a bit of grime and crap in there. Generally it's going to get repainted anyway, so we're going to treat that as a paint job. We're not going to take this handlebar grip off. It's on there super tight, so if it's on there super tight, may as well leave it on there. It's in good condition as well. So I'll pop those down there for the moment. Now as was mentioned, here we have the Speedo head. Now the Speedo head we know works because we put a little thing in there, he twizzled it, and the little needle moves up and down, so that's okay. Wiring on this is pretty basic, so all we might do is change the lamp for the night light. The one for the actual neutral indicator, because that's the only other light you've got in there, as long as it works, can leave it well alone. The glass on the top here has been replaced. Looks like it's been replaced by a bit of plastic. It's a fairly basic thing. It's just a crimped over cowling. As you can see, it looks like someone's taken it off and it's gone back on again. So again, if it works, leave it alone really, other than cleaning it up perhaps. Here's the mounting bracket for it, which goes over thus, and the little bolt there goes through that hole there, if you can see that, and it screws up on the back of the metal shroud on the handlebars, and that's what holds it in place. So it's pretty basic. Now as we move on to the handlebars, or the actual controls, now obviously this is the brake lever, and that's just the stub for the mirror, so we're not too worried about that. This one only has indicators on this side. There's no other emergency stop function or any other kind of control on it, other than the 3 wires coming out of there for the indicators. So that should be fairly straightforward. Now what we found when we took this out, and it's kind of important, if I can find a little piece, you've got this tiny little, like a spring clip. Now I don't know if you can see that or focus on that, maybe I can put it back a bit, but that basically goes from the inside of this grooved channel in here. Now that grooved channel is obviously important. Now you think about it when you're riding a bike and you reach for the, if you've got to reach for the brake to do an emergency stop, this unit has to try and remain in one place. You don't want that spinning round and round. So I think that spring clip is basically almost like a wood rough key. So it actually sort of, this engages and stays fixed in one spot. So as an emergency, you go to brake, hit the brake, this doesn't go up or down, it stays where it is. You come to a halt, hopefully everything's happy. So that's one of the little things, as I say, when you start taking things apart, you don't notice. Only when I took it apart, I actually knew it was in there. And that's kind of important detail for when we put it actually back together again. Now, on the other side, on the left-hand side, we basically got the choke assembly. So you've got a cable that will go in there and come out around that way, and it'll go down to the carburetor. You've obviously got the high and low beam on here. It's a pretty basic switch. If it's working, leave it well alone. I'm not going to mess with it. Now, on the back there, you'll notice a small hole. Now, that's actually for the horn button. The horn button on this bike, it's basically detached from its shoulder. So you've only got the spring in there. We do have the component, we do have the wire inside, but basically we need to look at either getting a new button or fabricating something to go in to act as a button. So we need a sort of plastic shaped button that will fit in there to do it. Now, I'm looking online on eBay, there are some on there. I don't know whether they'll fit, but I'm probably going to get one, basically because it's a Yamaha one, so it might be off the shelf. It might be used on a range of different bikes. It's just not labelled as working on this bike. Even if it doesn't work, we might be able to sleeve it down, shave a bit off to actually get it in to work. And obviously it's kind of got a spring behind it, so you push the plunger and the plunger makes the contact, beep, the horn goes off. That's pretty much it. Nothing else much exciting on this really. It's basically pretty standard. You've got 3 wires coming off of that as well, which is obviously the headlight, so we should be okay with that. And these are probably the most important bits. Now, I said about the handlebars, when you actually twist the twist grip round, the cable actually goes through this little nylon bush, and you've also got this aluminium key which drops in there, so that when you rotate your twist grip, it actually pulls that slider up or down, which sets the level of your throttle basically. So the more you open it, the further up. The more you close it, it goes back and shuts the throttle. So that is obviously needs greasing up. We're going to get a new cable as well, but those are the important bits. You do not want to lose those bits. Now, the cable itself, the throttle cable on these little scooterettes, is basically 3 parts. You have the upper cable, which is this one, then you've got a lower cable which goes from the throttle down to this throttle body. There's also another cable which comes off, which goes to the oil pump. Now obviously the oil pump's kind of important on a 2-stroke, because you've got to mix a certain amount of oil with a certain amount of petrol, otherwise the engine seizes up. Now when I took this actual cable out top, you can see there's quite a distinct bend. So they shouldn't be like that. It should be more of a smooth curve, if anything. And as we get down here, there's another bend or crack in the casing. So another sort of tightish bend at the bottom there as well. Could probably straighten that out, but the cable's 40 years old, and there's a good chance that this is starting to corrode. So we've probably got rust in there. Now, if you start this cable fraying, what will happen is that basically the frame will cut into it and get worse, with the potential that that throttle cable could snap or jam in a certain position. So for the sake of a few pounds, it's worth chucking away and getting a new one. Now, if you look here, you can see that it comes in, so it's a two-part sort of thing. So there's another sleeve there that's got another sort of plastic barrel on it, which has got two cables which sit in it, which then this snaps together, and that's pretty much it. The adjustment then is done on the throttle side or on the oil pump side. The oil pump, as we've known it was a working bike, we're not really going to touch. We might take it in, give it a quick clean, give it a quick rotation to make sure it is actually delivering a small amount of oil, but you'll soon see, because you've got blue smoke coming out of the back, you know you've got a fairly good oil supply to it. So as I say, we know that was working before, and the bike had done, you know, a good few thousand miles without any problems, so it should still be okay. We haven't changed anything, so as long as it's delivering some oil, we should be happy days. So that's basically about it with what we've got at the moment. We've taken the back wheel off the bike, and we've given that a new tyre and new tube. We've got to put some new brake shoes in there because the same problem with the front. The brakes are contaminated, they're so old. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to go on and finish off the painting up and start looking at the reassembly. So join us next time.